Position here.
I can't get Raquel's name changed to us for some reason.
Where is Raquel's name?
Here, see the correction?
Oh,
Position.
And I'm just going to put us onto mute as we begin. And as participants are participating, we invite you to unmute. But I'll start with everybody on mute. As we begin our worship this evening, Linda has prepared for us Tov Lehodot.
Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer shemhayon. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer shemhayon. On this the day of days, my lips shall sing your praise, for I know that you'll always be here surrounding me. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. My spirit takes release. I close my eyes in peace, and from my soul heard far above springs a song of love. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. I wish to understand the wonders of your hand, for all the blessings that are mine rise from your design. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov leodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. The National Council of Jewish Women is promoting next Shabbat as Shabbat Repro. Given the Torah portion, next week presents a case that directly establishes in Judaism that a fetus is not accorded the same status as human life. Yet, as often happens here in Southbury, we're slightly ahead of the curve. We are opting to make Shabbat Repro this week's focus, and given recent Supreme Court's the recent ruling enabling Texas to maliciously restrict reproductive rights, on this weekend's 49th anniversary of the Roe decision, our observance is in fact not a moment too soon. We now turn to page 120 for Hadlakat Hanerot, Kindling the Lights of Shabbat, this evening led by Michelle Rosen. Michelle?
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
And Rebecca, will you please lead us in the prayer?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Michelle. Our service continues on page 142 now with Shalom Aleichem. If you do not have a prayer book handy, all you need to do is go to our website, bneiisraelsouthbury.org, and there from our website, you will see the link to a flip book through the CCAR for Shabbat. On page 142, Linda leads us in Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Neh Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
On page 144, Linda now leads us in the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadav, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Divrach Yute Ve'amlik Malchute, Ve'chayechon U'v'yamechon U'v'chayede Kol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, U'v'zman Kariv, V'meru, Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevorach Le'alam U'lemehamaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalei V'yitalal Shmei Kudisha Brihu Leila minko berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen.
Page 146, we invite those who wish to stand for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamivarach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamivarach Leolam Vahed.
I read on the bottom of page 148, Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamahari Barabim.
And the bottom of page 150, Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivot Malchuto Leolam Vahed.
Please be seated. We join together with Linda in the Ve'ahavta, page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meotecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom levavecha Veshinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlektecha b'derech ushokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam lehot al yodecha v'hayu letotapot ein benecha uchtavtam al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'hasitehem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kidoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Emet. I read on page 156 towards the bottom of the page. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Mikamocha will be found on page 158.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilo, oseh peled, Norah tehilo, oseh peled. Malachut tehara u'ba'necha, v'kei olam mipnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zehli hanu ve'ameru, Zehli hanu ve'ameru, Adonai hilo le'olam va'ed, Adonai hilo le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 160. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Another treat for us this evening, I'll be screen sharing Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לעולם. בני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי יום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We now turn to page 164 for the tefillah. We'll be chanting the prayers on the right-hand pages, on the even-numbered pages, beginning page 164, continuing through page 170. For those who wish, we invite you to rise.
Adonai sifata tiftach uviagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanara, Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Kodei HaKol, V'Zocher Hastirot V'Imahot, U'Mevei Gula Lifnei B'Lehem, L'man Shemo Be'ahava. Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Abraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atavrav Le'Hoshia. Mekakel Kayim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Zomek Noflim Verafei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayei Memunato, Lishenei Afar, Mechamocha Balgivurot, Umido Melach, Melach Memit, Umechaye, Umasmi Yeshua, Venehemana Tale Hakayot Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye Hakol.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God.
Baruch atah Adonai Ahel HaKadosh.
Amen. Please be seated. Yesterday was the 80th anniversary of the infamous Wannsee Conference, where Nazi leaders devised their plans to murder every Jew they could, as it took the lives of 6 million, including 1.5 million children. The State of Israel introduced a UN resolution about Holocaust remembrance that was overwhelmingly adopted. Though tellingly, one nation objected. The Iranian regime so outspoken in its own genocidal aims against Israel and world Jewry. As we pray for peace each week, aware as we are of heightened anti-Semitism, Holocaust trivialization or denial, and raging conspiracy theories directed at us, we know that last Shabbat's attack on the Reformed congregation in Texas is cause for both gratitude and concern. For our part, let us reavow our determination to uphold memory and to energetically sustain Jewish life in the state of Israel and here. For as the proverb teaches, Torah's ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. We sing Shalom Rav for abundant peace in realm upon realm, page 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech hador lekol hashalom. Ki atahu melech hador lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov peinecha levarech et amecha Yisrael lekol etuvecha b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Silent prayer will be found on page 180.
יהיו לרצון אמרפי. יהיו לרצון אמרפי. והגיון ליבי לפניך. Adonai tsuri begoli. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you. Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Uya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael. Ve'imru, ve'imru. Amen.
Thank you, Lisa. Just beautiful. During our virtual oneg, I do have a question for you about your virtual background. We'll now be continuing with our Torah service, Seder Kriyat HaTorah. As we prepare to read the Torah this evening, Linda prepares us with Ki Mitzion, found on page 364.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim.
This week, our Torah portion, Yitro, is named for Moses' father-in-law, Yitro, aka Jethro, a Midianite priest with an eye for organization and efficiency. Later on in our Torah portion, as a consequence of Yitro's recommendations, the people are able to receive the 10 utterances, the 10 commandments and Torah on Mount Sinai, which is also part of this week's portion. It's like the saying, you need to prepare on Friday to have Shabbat. In other words, things just don't happen, but result from mindfulness. Similarly, Yitro's sense of order was beneficial. Yitro is well considered this evening. There is so much to be done in our community and beyond, requiring our organization and energy, including standing up for reproductive rights. In the 49 years since the Supreme Court likewise avowed reproductive choice as the law of the land in Roe, many supporters of choice became complacent while its opponents effectively organized. Yitro reminds us of the importance of ongoing preparation and commitment as we need to prepare on Friday to have Shabbat. This evening, our Aliyah to the Torah is Ruth Holt. I'm going to screen share for Ruthie the blessing, and obviously Ruthie the blessing before the reading of the Torah. And Ruthie, we invite you to unmute. Ruthie, I think you're still on mute. So if you could unmute.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, you're back on to mute again.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Now we can't hear you.
Can you hear now?
Yep, don't touch anything. Go right ahead with the blessing.
Okay. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai v'rach le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. And in a moment, let me just pull this up. And I will now screen share the Torah portion itself. And we begin our reading. You can see now hopefully I have put the cursor. Vayehi mimachat, vayoshev Moshe lishpot et ha'am, vayamod ha'am al Moshe min haboker ad ha'arav. And this is the continuation of Jethro, of Yitro's visit. And it was the next morning that Vayeshev Moshe, that Moses sat to judge the people, and they stood before Moses from morning until evening. Vayar choten Moshe et kol asher hu oseh la'am. And Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing there for the people. Vayomer, and he said, Ma hadavar hazeh asher ata oseh. What is this thing that you are doing? La'am, for the people. Madua ata yoshev levadecha v'chol ha'am nitzav alav min boker ad arav. Why are you sitting alone, and all of the people are standing before you from morning until evening? Vayomer Moshe lochotno, and Moses said to his father-in-law, Ki yavo elai ha'am lidrosh Elohim, ki yihyeh lechem devar ba elai, v'shafatati bein ish uvein re'ehu, v'hodadati et hukei ha'elohim ve'et torotav. And he said, this is Moses' response, was to his father-in-law, was that they all come before me to inquire of God, and I judge between the person and their fellow, and let them know the laws of God and God's Torah. And Vayomer Moshe elav, and he said to Moses, Lo tov, this isn't good. Lo tov hadavar asher ata oseh. This is no good, this thing that you are doing. Navol tibol, gam ata gam ha'am. This will wear out you and the people, hazeh, and this people, sherimach, who are with you. Ki chaved mimcha hadavar, lo tuchal sehu levadecha. You can't do this by yourself. It is way too weighty. Ata shma b'koli. And so now Jethro says to Moses, listen to my voice. Bitzcha bihi Elohim imach. That I may offer guidance and God be with you. Vehe ata la'am mul ha'elohim, veheveta ata et hadivarim el ha'elohim. When you are between God and the people and bringing God's words to the people, visharta ethem et hachukim ve'et hatorot v'hodata lahem et haderech yelchu. That you should give the laws and the Torah, God's laws and Torah, and instruct them on the path in which they should go, ve'et ma'aseh asher ya'asun, and that which they should do. Ve'ata tichazeh Mikol ha'am anshe chayil, and you should seek out from all the people capable men who are strong, Yirei Elohim, have awe for God, anshe emet, people of truth, so that's who spur wrong gain. V'samta aleichem sarei alafim, and you should have over them people to guide the thousands, sarei meot in the hundreds, sarei chamashim in the 50s, the sarei asarot and in the 10s. So in other words, to break things up into much smaller groups. I'm going to stop sharing the Torah portion and bring back the blessing after our Torah portion. And once I have this up on the screen, Ruthie, we invite you to recite the blessing after the reading of the Torah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ruthie. And Linda now sings Eitz Chaim Hi, that is a tree of life. Torah is our tree of life. And a consequential verse from the Bible for us to consider on this week, which likewise included Tu B'Shvat, our New Year for the trees. Torah is a tree of life, page 374, Eitz Chaim Hi.
Eitz Chaim Hi למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם.
This Shabbat, as we offer the blessing for healing, we are mindful of James Corby, Robert Dower, Don Durnell, Alan Elias, Gerald Friedkin, Jack Hoath, Hamarat Tzvi Amina, Bat Tzvi Hirsch Ve'ita, Shari Lynn Kochman, Kevin Lembo, Yvette Mickenberg, Art Phillips, Joanne Ranzer, Raj Schoonmaker, Michael Schwartz, and Alan Stein. There are also those for whom we pray privately. We also pray for people over the world fighting COVID-19. For those who are with us on Zoom, we invite you to unmute and say aloud the names of those for whom we likewise pray this Shabbat.
Ed Schwartz.
Susan Hydwick.
Dory Creighton.
Phil Feynman.
Deb White, Sharon Balanson, Doug Hadgen.
For all, may the Holy One send healing and shelter in protection. Our Misha Berach prayer is on page 371.
Misha Berach Abotenu Vekor Habraha source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Motenu, Mekor habracha lahabotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Some believe that worship services should be devoid of contemporary issues, focusing exclusively on spiritual awareness of a higher power. This isn't new. There have been religious movements such as Quietism, but that's not Judaism. Our ancient prophets and sages weren't quiet. For if religion doesn't address the real needs of the moment, if religion is unconcerned with the moral values at stake, it's ultimately inconsequential. Our rabbis and past generations of Jews grasped that if we don't stand for anything, we stand for nothing. Rather, they avowed, the more we engage with faith, the more relevant it becomes. So tonight, Linda and I have taken up the invitation to sign on to Repro Shabbat. As from our vantage, the event's organizer, the National Council of Jewish Women, got it just right. Its literature for Repro Shabbat explains, Judaism permits abortion, full stop. The Constitution gives us the right to have abortions, full stop. Indeed, Judaism doesn't only permit abortion. In certain situations, it mandates a pregnancy be terminated. These circumstances are often excruciating for women and their families. Yet Judaism avows time and again that the life and health of the woman, including her mental health, takes precedence. There are Jewish texts that have directed our understandings across the millennia. One is from next week's portion, which is why the organizer sought to draw our attention to the subject next week. We read in Exodus, if men fight and wound a pregnant woman, causing her to miscarry, but no other harm ensues, then the one who caused the injury shall be fined, as her husband shall assess, and the matter is placed before judges. But if other harm befall her, then you shall give life for life, etc. Clearly, in this case, the Torah contrasts actual life, the life of the mother and her well-being, with potential life, her fetus. The Mishnah a 2nd century code of Jewish law, makes the same distinction. It states, a woman who is having difficulty in giving birth, it is permitted to cut up the child inside her womb and to take it out limb by limb because her life takes precedence. However, once its head, or if the greater part of the child has come out, it must not be touched, because one life must not be taken to save another. Again, the fetus is not accorded the status of human life. To fast forward a bit, Rabbi Jacob Emden, an important 18th century legal expert, summarized Jewish thinking. He wrote, abortion is permitted for great need, as long as the birth process has not begun, even if the reason is not to save the mother's life, but only to save her from, quote unquote, great pain it caused her. Emden isn't alone in his ruling. A prominent Sephardic rabbi of that same era similarly determined, and I quote, abortion is permitted for the sake of refuah, the mother's healing, even though her life is not at risk. The fetus is not a legal person. Abortion is not murder. It is prohibited solely on the grounds that it constitutes habalah, physical harm to the mother. And this prohibition may be waived when her health is at stake. Friends, their decisions indicate that mental health qualified as a reason for an abortion. Thus, even in that far more patriarchal era, placing the decision in the hands of the woman herself. Like those ancient and medieval rabbis, modern rabbis and modern Jews likewise contest the formulation of abortion as murder. David Feldman writes, abortion is not murder. If abortion were declared murder, a mother would not be allowed to have an abortion, even to save her life, which is obviously not the case. There is, need it be stated, no commandment that reads, thou shalt not kill. It reads, thou shalt not murder. The difference is in circumstances. Killing is allowed in self-defense, in war, perhaps in sentencing court. As is evident precisely because all life is sacred in Judaism, women must not be reduced to biological utilities, forced to carry an unwanted fetus. In our advocacy of reproductive choice, the goal is to make abortion safe and rare. In my work as a congregational rabbi for more than 3 decades, I've spoken with many women confronting difficult choices. The last thing needed is an absence of personal autonomy. A rollback of reproductive choice will result in more unsafe abortions, especially for those in poverty or abusive relationships. Let me also add that birth control likewise has an appropriate place in Jewish understanding of human sexuality and personal autonomy. And here too, anti-abortion activists intrude into women's privacy. Other sacred texts strongly disagree with any legal codification of life beginning at conception. Assuredly, other faith traditions utilizing other texts will reach different conclusions. The goal here is not to dismiss or demean their religious convictions, but to ensure that they not be imposed on the women of our nation. The First Amendment to the Constitution should guarantee that no one religion should be enshrined in law or dictate public policy on this issue. All told, Judaism permits abortion, full stop. The Constitution gives us the right to have abortions, full stop. with our pulling out all the stops for Repro Shabbat, Linda now shares her reworking of an important feminist anthem. It voices our commitment to equality and justice and our determination to actualize our Jewish faith. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will.
So I actually didn't know this folk song before I found it. And I didn't know about Ruth Pelham, who's a folk song writer and who is just exactly my age and lived during the Vietnam era and wrote a lot of protest songs. And she continues to write songs to raise her voice with sisters and brothers around the globe for a new vision of peace and harmony in the world. This song is called I Am a Woman, and it's not, I don't know how familiar you are with it. It's a very simple song. And the beauty of folks music is that it's easy to teach. You can have a whole group of people, a throng of people who have come together for a purpose. You can teach them a song. We can all sing together in unity, add some harmony, sing in solidarity, and be one voice together. And the power of that is amazing. So that's not easy to do on Zoom, but I want you to sing along at home if you're so moved. And the words, Rabbi, do you have the words by any chance? Are you able to bring them up, or did you not?
Hang on, Linda.
Okay, because then you can sing along at home, and you can add harmony, and I'll hear it from here, even if I'll hear it in my heart for sure.
Actually, Linda, I believe, no. Do I have the correct? I have the version. I'm looking at yesterday, and those lyrics.
The only I'll tell the corrections as we get to the last verse, but the first two verses are the same.
Okay, so it will just take me one more moment to do this, and I will share the screen.
And while he's doing that, I'm just going to share the chorus is no one, nobody, no powers that be can ever, ever, ever take this right away from me. I am a woman here on planet Earth. I have the breath of life in me, a gift given at birth. No one, nobody, no powers that be can ever, ever, ever take this gift away from me. I am a woman here on planet Earth. I have a song to sing in me, a song sung birth to birth. No one, nobody, no powers that be can ever, ever, ever take this gift away from me. I am a woman here on planet Earth. Flesh and bones and blood am I, with power, wisdom, and worth. No one, nobody, no powers that be can ever, ever, ever take this flesh away from me. And the words on this are, I'm a woman here on planet Earth. I have the right to reproduce or choose not to give birth. And then it's the same, so right to reproduce. So it's a little bit different than this, but I am a woman here on planet Earth. I have the right to reproduce or choose not to give birth. No one, nobody, no powers that be can ever, ever, ever take this right away from me. Can ever, ever, ever take this right away from me.
We now turn in our prayer books to page 586 as we begin our concluding prayers with the Aleinu. We invite those who wish to rise for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'tev gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu k'grei havratzot velo zamanu k'mishbechot hadama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated, page 589. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Page 591.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
At this moment in our service, we now call to mind our own beloved dead. We pray on their behalf. We voice the confidence that they are remembered for blessing. As that those in mourning are remembering the anniversary of the death of a loved one, to please rise if you are able when their name is mentioned. During Shiva, remember Charlotte Berman, cousin of Catherine Albee. During Shloshim, remember Judy Feynman, longtime congregant, mother of Philip and Fran, mother-in-law of Marcy, Jerry, Sylvia, and Robert, grandmother of Jamie, Sarah, Jason, Rebecca, and Hannah. Remember the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Anna Alexander, Jacob Brandvine, Bert Boyson, Devorah Rose Brodsky, Celia Vetbroth, Gail Fingerhut, Isaac Gaber, Sam Golub, Edward Gorman, Anita Greenberg, Samuel R. Greenblatt, Eric J. Hall, Samuel Kadish, Irving Kantrowitz, Tilly H. Lax, Herman Saperstein, Harry Simon, Fanny Sperling, Teresa Trarig, Hannah Wise, and Molly Rudolph Zeidler. We ask our worshipers, should you have a dear one to add, to unmute and to say their name.
Oscar Benenson.
Briva Ballin.
Who?
Reinstating a custom from our B'nai Israel past, should you wish, we invite you to unmute and offer a short remembrance or reference to a dear one on our Kaddish list. Please let me recognize you.
Rabbi,
Rudy?
First of all, let me tell you that this service has been fantastic. I'm grateful to both you and Linda. And now I'd like to speak to my mother, for my mother, Molly Rudolph Zeidler, whose maiden name I bear. My mother was a stereotype Jewish immigrant 100 years ago. And it was an arranged marriage in Europe. And her condition was she would never marry anyone who would not take her to America. And she came here, raised 4 children, all God-fearing, all fantastic people who had their own children and contributed to America. And she was a wonderful person, forgive me, and she gave me ethics. And I and my remaining sibling, my sister, are bear witness to her wonderfulness. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ruthie? Ruthie, you have to come off mute.
Thank you. Not easy to describe what it's like to go through the mourning period. And one of the ways by which I have been able to grieve is by writing poetry, especially. So I'd like to share a brief poem that I wrote for Bert a few months after his death. It's called The Morning After. When the morning after, born in darkness, swallowed by eternity, counted in fitful dreams, and fused into wrenching tales, breaks open, our pain will traverse boundless and wild across a specter of the yet unknown, and the courage of countless few will comfort the pounding hearts of our primordial fear. When the morning after softens at the edges of an unfathomable abyss, a window to your soul may fly open in the midst of silent desolation. There, in a dreamlike unison, look up. We huddled, we touch.
Ruthie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our Kaddish prayer will be found on page 598. We also remember the dead this week from COVID-19, and we mentioned 6 names amongst the 6 million murdered in the Holocaust, the Shoah. This week we remember Esther Blumenkrantz, Shimon Blumenkrantz, Chaya Blumenkrantz, Itzhak Zalman Blumenkrantz, Henya Blumenkrantz, and Shana Blumenkrantz. In remembrance and solidarity, and on behalf of those for whom there is no one but us to say Kaddish, we now invite all to rise, if you're able. Our Kaddish prayer, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrachurute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mavarach la'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dukudasha b'rechu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam levracha. May their memories be for blessing, and let us say amen. Please be seated. Prior to Adon Olam and our closing hymn, Stephen Reps, president of B'nai Israel, has this week's announcements.
Good evening, all. Welcome to Zoom and YouTube worshipers. We're so glad to have you with us. It's nice to see everyone this evening in their homes, all nice and cozy on such a frigid evening. Thank you, Rabbi, for a wonderful service and a very fascinating and interesting sermon, and Linda for your wonderful music, and Michelle and Rebecca and Lisa and Ruthie for your participation this evening. Email Rabbi for codes or questions about the following. The Torah study tomorrow on Zoom at 10:30. Sunday at 10:30 is Rabbi's Advanced Jewish Learning. And Chaplain Ron's class on creation and Kabbalah is Friday at 11 a.m. Next Friday night, services at 7:30, back on Zoom and YouTube. We have a special IAC presentation in store for everyone. Please stay on Zoom for the Rabbi's virtual oneg, which will take place after our closing hymn. And I have just one kind of housekeeping statement. In the next week or so, everyone will be receiving a form from B'nai Israel in the mail, asking to update your personal information, like your address, phone number, email, and so on. And also it'll ask if you'd like to have that information included in the updated version of the B'nai Israel directory. We'd appreciate a timely reply to that request, either back through mail, or you can email your updates and choices to president@bnaiisraelsouthbury.org. And all that information is included in the form. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Our concluding hymn, Adon Olam, found on page 625. Linda?
Adon Olam, Asher Malav, B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasav V'Chesocho, Asar Melech Shemo Nikra, V'Yacharei Hiklam HaKol, Levato Yimlo Torah, V'Hu Hayam V'Hu Hofeh, V'Hu Yireh B'Tiporah, Hu Echad Ve'en Sheni, Le'Hashelo Ve'Hakira, Beli Reshit Beli Taklit, Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'Hamisra, Ve'Hu Roli Ve'Chai Goli, Ve'Tzur Hebli Ve'Eitzara, Ve'Hu Nisi U'Manosli, Ve'Nakosi Ve'Yom Hekra, Ve'Yado Akid Ruhi Ve'Hiti Shad Ti Adonai li Elohim.
Thank you, Linda and Lisa and Rebecca and all our singers. May God's presence be with us. May God's presence